Sine, cosine, and tangent are the three trig ratios that you've had experience working with in the past and over the last couple of days. However, there are actually three other trig functions that are related to these three, sine, cos, and tan, by being reciprocals of them. So for example, if I take the ratio for tan, opposite over adjacent, and reciprocate it to adjacent over opposite, it has a totally different value, just like 2/3 is different than 3/2. They're reciprocals of one another. So the name for adjacent divided by opposite is cotangent, which we abbreviate as cot. And that's easy enough to remember that tangent and cotangent are the reciprocals of each other. For cosine, if you take adjacent over hypotenuse and reciprocate to hypotenuse over adjacent, the name for this ratio is secant, which we abbreviate as SEC, sec. And then the reciprocal of sine, or hypotenuse over opposite, is known as the cosecant, which is abbreviated CSC, cusc. And the way I remember these last couple as being related with cos and sec, those pairs of reciprocals have to start with a C and an S. And the same thing is true of sine and cosecant. They start with a C and an S. So cos and cosecant are not reciprocals of each other because they both start with C. And sine and secant, same reason, not reciprocals. They both start with an S. You need a pair of a C and an S to make reciprocals. So let's put these trig functions into play on a right triangle. So here I have this right triangle. I have not figured out the hypotenuse yet, so we'll need to do some Pythagorean theorem to do that. So 8 squared plus 3 squared will be 64 plus 9, 73. So this would be the square root of 73. And let me also label our angles here just to make this triangle easier to talk about. So let's try triangle ABC. So off of this triangle, let's do our 6 trig ratios. So we'll start with the 3 that we know well. Sine of, let's go from angle A. Sine of angle A, when I go opposite, I have 8, and hypotenuse, square root 73. Cos from angle A will be adjacent, which is 3, and hypotenuse, square root 73. And for tangent from angle A, the opposite of A is 8, and the adjacent is 3. So opposite over adjacent is 8/3. Now let's go for our reciprocals. Let's start with cot. Cot from angle A, I can either do it as adjacent over opposite, which would be 3/8, or since I already know tan, I can just reciprocate 8/3 and make it 3/8. The cosine of A is 3 over radical 73, so the reciprocal, secant of A, would be hypotenuse over adjacent, or just taking my cos and making the reciprocal, radical 73 over 3. And then the reciprocal of sine is called cusc, or cosecant. And the reciprocal of that will be hypotenuse over opposite, or radical 73 over 8. Now, one thing to inspect on these 6 answers, 2 of these 6 answers we have a slight problem with because there's a radical in the denominator in some of these. So recall back early in the year, if I want to get rid of a radical in the denominator, like for sine of A, I have to multiply it by itself. And that will, sine of A will be 8 radical 73 over 73 in simplest form. And same thing here for cos A. We have a radical in the denominator. So if I multiply top and bottom by radical 73, cos of A will now be 3 radical 73 over 73.